Good afternoon. It's June 24th, 2015. We're here today with Roger Crabill. I'm Deb Lawrence, and we're at the Peabody Public Library for the Veterans History Project. Glad you could join us.
Glad to help.
Were you born here in Whitley County?
I was born in Fort Wayne, but I've always lived in Whitley County.
What part of Whitley County?
Just north of Collins a little ways.
Okay. Your parents were from Whitley County, or?
Yeah,
Okay. What branch of military did you serve in?
Army,
The Army. And were you drafted? Did you enlist?
drafted.
At that point, though, did you have a choice of which
No.
branch to go in?
Well, you did if you volunteered.
But if you were
got
drafted,
no.
you just went where they told you to
Yeah.
go. And which conflict?
Vietnam War,
Vietnam War?
or whatever they call it.
I call it a war. So where did you go for training camp?
Fort, Fort Campbell in Kentucky.
And then Kentucky? So do you remember how long you were there before you were?
8 weeks.
8 weeks, and then were you directly deployed to Vietnam, or?
No, then I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama for 8 weeks of advanced training.
And then, so what was your specialty? What?
It's just infantry.
It was just infantry? Okay.
That was all just a fight.
How were the instructors at the camps? Were they tough on you, or?
Yeah, very tough.
Yeah.
I caught upper respiratory infection in basic, and the chaplain come and cussed me out.
The chaplain?
Yes.
Oh, my.
When I was in the hospital, because the staff sergeant, or the platoon sergeant, got counted because he didn't have everybody in training.
Oh, boy. So did they make you get up out of your hospital bed and go back?
Yeah, about a day later, but the only thing they did for me was give me 8 aspirins a day.
Oh, goodness. That's not so good.
No.
So once you were finished with your training, then you were sent to Vietnam. What was your company? Let's get that first.
I was in 1st to the 5th Mechanized Infantry, but we were attached to the 25th Infantry Division. There was only a couple battalions of the 1st and 5th in Vietnam. The rest of them were in, I believe, Hawaii.
And you drew the short straw.
That's where they wanted the replacements to go.
Okay, so once you got there, what was your impression of this country?
Very messed up. They raise a lot of rice over there in the wet season, which is about 6 months of the year. And then the dry season is the other 6 months. And when it's dry, there's no rain or nothing. And the temperatures range from 125 in the shade to about 170 in the sun.
Oh, my. And so how did you cope with that?
You just sweat a lot. And you didn't have decent water to drink, so very seldom we drink water. We usually drink hot beer.
Hot beer, you.
Yeah, it's better than boiling water.
Probably so, yes. So, what were some of the things our Veterans Salute this year, the theme is the things they carried. What were some of the things that you carried with you?
The first 3 months, I was on top of the personnel carrier behind the 50 caliber machine gun.
Wow.
And at the end of that time, we hit a landmine and it blew the personnel carrier apart, and I was blowed up in the air. I come back down in the hatch, and burning oil from the motor come over the top of me.
Oh, my.
And I think it was 4 hours after I was sent to the hospital, they released me.
4 hours after you got there, they sent you back out.
No, they sent me back to the company area in I was in Coochie. And I was supposed to report to the medic the next morning, and I went and seen him. He says, "What are you doing out of the hospital?" I said, "The 12th back released me, and the other hospital wouldn't admit me. And their 25th Division Hospital wouldn't admit me. Told me to come back and see you." He says, "I'll see about that." Next thing I know, I'm back in the 12th back hospital.
And how long did you stay there then? I mean, quite obviously.
8
you were
days.
pretty well burnt, I would bet, with the hot oil.
Yeah, I ain't fighting that yet.
Yeah, oh, still?
Yeah.
Wow.
About 8 years now. Well, I started a month after I got out, but then I just dropped it because they lied to me about the injuries.
Oh my.
And the doctor stood there at the doorway and told me one thing, and I think it was a veterans advocate told me that the doctor was wrong. I wasn't wrong with me. And I've fought for 8 years now trying to get my medical records down there, and I just got them and they're not right.
Oh my.
They said that I had bandages taken off in May the 29th, and I think I was in the United States because my brother was dying of kidney failure.
Oh. So, other than that traumatic experience, what were some of the other things that you saw or did there in Vietnam? Where did you land when you
Saigon.
You were in Saigon?
When you landed. They flew us back out in a smaller plane right away to Coochie.
And where in connection with Saigon? Is it north of Saigon, south of Saigon?
Just north of Saigon, probably maybe 50 to 100 miles, I'm not sure.
Okay. And your friends that were, did you have any friends that were still with you at that point, or?
Yes, the only one guy got a concussion because they were sitting on top and blew him off, and he came down on his head.
Ooh.
And the driver was mangled. They put the engine, when it blew up, put the engine right through steel plates, mangled him. And took two, I think they said it took 2 cranes to pull that apart so they could even get his body out.
So then, but then after you got out of the hospital, you went back to that same company, or?
Yes.
And so?
I was on duty about half a day or a little better, and that's when I had to come home because my brother was dying. And then when I went back, I carried it. I walked or was on the ground when part of the time. Part of the time we ran convoy detail where you guard the trucks.
Okay, so you had your weapon?
I had carried an M79 and 88 grenades for it.
Oh my goodness. That had to be quite a load to carry.
200 pounds.
Wow. And
most guys didn't carry near that.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, you had like a poncho or canteen or anything like that, or?
No, like I said, the water, boiling hot water,
Just
we didn't want to
didn't
drink
bother.
anyway. We didn't carry them. And the only thing carried was ammunition and the weapon, usually.
Wow. So, tell me what you remember, what you would like other people to remember.
Sometimes we were on convoy, like I said, in between the trucks every so often, and still couldn't catch some of those kids. Could somehow get on the truck and unload it while it's going down the road, and nobody know it.
Oh my. They just sneak up and get your stuff, and away they went.
Yeah, the supplies for the troops.
Wow.
And then when it didn't pull back, we usually was on, for 3 months, we were on night ambush during the night, and then we'd come back in and eat breakfast at 7 or so in the morning, Then we'd get on personnel carriers and go out in the daytime.
Wow.
And we did that for 3 months straight. And then when somebody else got in a firefight, like when I was there in 68 and 69, if they were getting overrun, they loaded us up. We weren't already on them, and we went out at night
And assisted other
and
companies.
pulled other companies back so they wouldn't lose too many more men.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was days that we ran for 4 days straight because they said that Vietnam, we were chasing Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they ever knew where they were really at, because we didn't encounter any of them in
Oh,
that
really?
time. But then they put us with tanks part of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and when they put us with tanks, they had to be 5 guys between a tank and a personnel carrier, and it was on a straight line and going across the country, and you were supposed to keep up with the tank and protect the tank so it didn't get blown up.
And-
So we were walking between 10 and 15 mile an hour. all day.
Sure. Wow. And carrying all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you meet any of the friendly Vietnamese?
Yeah, we met a few of them. A few of them was with us 1 or 2 days, but not very much with our unit because we moved so much.
You were too fast moving to,
Yeah, they didn't move that fast.
so you didn't have like bunkers that you stayed in or?
Yeah, part of the time we would go out and maybe we'd be out there in this base camp with 1 or 2 companies, maybe 200 guys set up, and they would dig out a hole about 3 foot deep and sandbag it up
Mhm.
about 2.5 to 3 feet. And we had the airstrip plates that they used in World War II. We carried so many of those on the tracks, and we put them over the top of bunkers and then sandbagged it about 4 or 5 layers high above that.
So it made kind of a little cave for
Yeah.
you to be in.
And then there was somebody always up on the 50 on top of the personnel carrier at night too.
So did you make some lasting friends from
Yes, I've
guys?
got one in Cleveland, Ohio, I think, I talked to him at least once or twice a year. And there's one in Oklahoma, I forget, I don't know what town.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one that was in Washington or Oregon, and then he moved to the other state, so I ain't sure which state he lives in now, but I haven't talked to him for quite a few years.
Have you been to the wall?
No, I have not. I've been to the portable wall over when it was in Fort
Oh,
Wayne,
uh-huh.
one of the cemeteries,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't been to the big wall.
It's quite a sight.
That's what I hear.
So how old were you when you were drafted?
19.
19. So here's this 19-year-old from Whitley County, Indiana. And all of a sudden you're in a foreign country. What was your first thought?
How'd I get here?
We get that a lot. So how long were you in Vietnam?
I had to go back after a month when my brother passed away, and I was there until March of '69.
So quite a while, quite a good
Yeah.
while.
I was there 11 months out of the 12.
Mm-hmm. And then you didn't have to re-enlist? That your time was up after your 12 months, you're done?
No, I had 6 months yet in active duty, and then I spent that at Fort Benning, Georgia. Well, 4 months of it, part of it there, and then they took us, I don't know, 2 or 3 companies took us down to down by Pensacola at an Air Force base,
Mm-hmm.
and we were 20 miles from any other people, out in old World War II barracks. And
Oh, man.
that's where they did the Ranger training. And we went down there to shoot blanks at the people going through Ranger training.
Ah,
The other 4 months, we were setting dynamite in holes when they're training troops at Fort Benning, Georgia, that they'd set them off as the troops were going down, so it looked
Okay,
like
so-
mortars coming in.
so you were given a little taste of what they were in for.
Yeah,
What was, this may be hard, what was the reaction when you came home?
people just, they didn't say nothing to you, they didn't ask nothing, or they just kinda ignored you.
How was that? I mean, did you need to be telling some of these stories, or?
Well, they say I did, I tried to forget it.
I get that a lot from Vietnam vets. When you were off duty, did you get liberties while you were there?
In Vietnam, we got about 3.
And what did you do while you were on liberty?
You only was on liberty 24 hours, so.
Oh, so there wasn't much you could do, huh?
No, if you was in a base camp where they had a PX, you go to PX or something.
But it wasn't like they show on the TV shows that you went into Saigon and
No.
booped it up and.
We never had the chance. Because
Yeah.
we, like, I think it would have been about 9 months after it'd been over there. We were supposed to have 1 day off. They took us in base camp, supposed to have 1 day off with PX. They come and got us before even, when they got there. Some of us just walked through, started to walk through the PX, and they come and got us to put us on duty for the rest of the day.
Wow.
And the next day they moved, well, the next day they moved out. They wouldn't let me go no more.
Yeah. So,
What they did that day is we went out to where the Viet Cong had shot mortars into the base camp the night before. And we went out there and sat where they found out the base, where they shot the mortars from. And we just sat there all day.
waiting to see if they came back?
Well, the idea was that maybe they would attack us and we'd catch.
So you were bait?
Yeah. And I said, this is stupid. And I said, somebody ought to shoot that captain and the major for this. They wouldn't let me go out and fight no more for some reason. They told me I'd seen enough.
I think you probably had at that point. So when you were being flown home, did you get to stop in Hawaii and do
Yeah.
anything there for a while, or
Yeah.
was it just quick?
One of the trips, like we stopped in Hawaii, you had 1 hour while they fueled the plane.
My goodness.
You weren't allowed to leave the terminal. But you couldn't be on the plane while they fueled.
Right.
Let's see, I left from somewhere in Washington, state of Washington, to go over. And we stayed in World War II barracks then. They still had coal furnaces in them. We had to fire the furnaces at night.
Were they like Quonset huts?
No, they were regular
Just
buildings.
regular
They're
buildings?
painted yellow, so,
Wow. You couldn't miss them.
no. And then with the coal dust, like, you really couldn't miss it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What else would you like to tell us? What do you think is important that needs to be said?
Well, I could tell you what the psychiatrist tells me at the VA.
Well, if that's what you wish. This is your interview.
He says that there were times that you weren't supposed to know what you were even doing. Like twice, they took us on helicopters. And then we got, there was an opening where there was what they call elephant grass. It's white bladed grass and it gets 6 to 8 feet tall. We were about 25 feet above the treetops, so we're over 100 feet in the air, and the pilot says, "Get off." What do you mean get off? There ain't no way to get off. He said, you step out there on that rail and jump, or 5 seconds, I'm coming back here and throwing you off. So everybody stepped out on the rails and jumped. Solid ground, but there was 8 foot of that grass
And it,
on top of it.
and it's, I imagine that grass is rather sharp.
Yeah, pretty sharp.
Wow.
And he says, you jumped, but you were not in Vietnam. He says, you in Laos.
Oh my.
We were supposed to go in and hunt for a trail that they called him Charlie,
Mhm.
had used to bring stuff down to the south part of Vietnam. Never seen nothing, but
Oh, wow. So you just had to act on blind faith and do
Yeah.
what
we just.
what
walked
your
back.
commanders told you to do.
Yeah, we just went through so much area and walked out of Laos back into Vietnam.
Wow. So when you came back, what did you do then? After you were released, after your, what, 6 months after?
March '69, I went back to work at Solomon Preston, Fort Wayne.
Uh-huh.
And 1 year later, I got laid off. Second layoff they'd had in history.
Aw.
They called 2 years later and wanted me to go back, and I decided not to go back. I should have, but
Do what you gotta do. So, all in all, how did the military affect your entire life now?
it made it kind of a little bit secluded because you stay away from people. And if you go somewhere, you sit where you can see the doorway, the entrance to the building or that usually.
And you were only 19, so you probably weren't married when you went.
No,
And then,
I broke up with one when I went.
oh, bummer. Did you ever get back together?
No, her mother and dad didn't know me.
Ah,
I was 19 and she was 16.
hey, that happens.
Not back then.
No, not back then. So you came back and you have a family and no.
Yeah, I got a big family. I got, 11, I got 7 of us.
Wow.
And there was a baby that was stillborn, and then there was two other brothers that died. The one with kidney disease and the other died of cancer.
Yeah, were any of the rest of your family in the military at all?
My brother was in the Air Force before this stuff happened.
Before.
The oldest brother.
So like in between Korea and Vietnam,
Yeah.
he missed it.
He missed the war, yeah. But he was stationed on the East Coast up in New Hampshire, I think.
Mhm.
And what they did, the jets that were ready to take off, load with bombs on them and that,
Mhm.
they pulled them off of the line and put other ones out there, and they would take the bombs off of them, make sure that everything worked on them and that. Work on them planes until the next time they rotated them.
Mhm. Let's see. Well, I guess is there anything you think we haven't discussed, or any stories you'd like to tell, or?
I remember once, there was just our company out, and we dug in and was out there in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where we was even at, but we got attacked that night, and it went all night till about 7 o'clock in the morning. And they figured there was over 2,000 to 4,000 Vietnam attacked, and there was 108 of us, I think, out there. We lost 6.
Oh my goodness. And so then you obviously found them the next day, or did they
No.
just drag them all?
No, they left. They didn't
Mhm.
take them with them. They buried them the next day there.
Wow. And just a little over 100 against 2,000, and you only lost 6. That's amazing.
2 of them was the company commander's fault, because he got out of the bunker and was walking around inside the base camp. He got his radio man killed because they could see that antenna.
Well, sure.
Even at night, they could tell that was moving.
Yeah, I have a friend that was a radio man, and he said it was like having a target on his head.
Yeah, they looked for anything shiny because they figured they were an officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they see on the antenna, they knew that guy was carrying a radio.
Right. So what rank did you achieve?
E5,
Okay.
and I wasn't gonna stay in the military because they had, most guys in my company, I'd say 80% of them anyway, was offered a lieutenant commission over there.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them turned it down. They didn't want to stay in the military.
Mm-hmm. So I do thank you for your service to our country, and I hope your problems get solved.
I don't know, but
Anything else?
well, when I came home on leave, I thought it was kind of strange, but they brought me to Alaska. And this was in the latter part of May, 1st of June.
Mm-hmm.
It was 55 degrees there.
Oh my!
And we flew to New Jersey. And then from there, I flew home, and it was 32.
Yeah, you don't expect that from Alaska, do you? I wouldn't have.
Not in May.
Yeah. So did you get a big party when you came home?
No.
No? Oh, well, maybe she should give you one now. Well, I appreciate your time, and once again, thank you for your service.